introduce those at the diocese. To my far right is our Parks Director, Jim Halios.
Good evening.
To my right is Board Member Patrick Raftery.
Hello.
To my left is Board Member Lisa Tuttle.
Hello.
Board Member Jason Hood. Board Member Martin Armstrong. Board Member Scott Thomas attempted to join our meeting tonight by telephone, but we were unable to make that happen, so he apologized for not being able to make the meeting. He's traveling on business, but did try to join the meeting. We also have in attendance our Vice Chair, Mark Rodriguez, approaching the podium. This time, we'll move to item 2 on the agenda, approval of meetings. Are there any amendments to the minutes of our meeting April 27, 2021 or May 25th, 2021? Hearing no amendments, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted for the meeting of April 27th and May 25th.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Rodriguez. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes of the April 27th and May 25th meeting are unanimously approved. This time we move to item 3 on the agenda, citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda. Are there any citizens tonight that want to be heard on an item that's, if you would please approach the podium, share with us your name and your address, and then you'll need to fill out one of our cards here.
No, you don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
I'm Kenneth Brandt. I'm at 2301 Cumberland Circle, apartment 302, Clearwater or Dunedin. And I'm with St. Petersburg College's Public Policy and Administration Department, and doing my capstone right now for graduation, and I have undertaken a feasibility study for improvements to the city's tree giveaway program, pre-Arbor Day. With the assistance of UFIFAS, Pinellas County Extension, mostly forward projecting climate change, what that'll do to the city, how to improve tree selection there, and also also improving tree offerings, marketing and communications to get more people to actually participate and get a free tree. So one of the major issues the city faces in the future is climate change, and with it warmer winters, longer dry season, and more powerful storms. This will result in more runoff. In the wet season, greater flooding during storms and high tides, as well as hotter, drier days, requiring more shade and putting increased stress on less suitable trees. Actually, on the 2012 USD hardiness zone map, which apparently hasn't actually spread that far, looking at a lot of things, the library we're standing in is actually zone 10A instead of 9B that people usually think it is. It's shifting about half a climate zone every cycle now. And so with that, and the centennial of the last major hurricane to hit the area coming up in October, the city does need to think about what things are going to be like going forward, and how to adapt its urban forest to future conditions. Thankfully, large parts of the city are going to be spared flooding in the future decades, and so we just have to worry about the other catastrophic issues that will be coming in terms of shift to a more severe, wet, dry split climates. And in order to meet those challenges, the city's tree giveaway program is actually is a good option to get people into things and to start replacing trees that are in the urban forest as they become unsuitable. And one of the problems that I've seen so far is that the city gives away a significant number of crepe myrtles. What I saw for 2020 was on the order of 800, which they're great, but that when you're giving away, like when half of the total giveaway is a single tree, that's not good. And otherwise, also very large trees like oaks and slash pines that are just unsuitable for many yards. And so we can improve tree selection with smaller, like medium-sized trees that are more suitable for around power lines, that are more suitable for flooding, and
Yeah, you have 3 minutes to
Okay.
make your remarks. Appreciate your sharing
Okay,
with
yes,
us.
sir.
I think some of the board members may have questions for you individually later on and talk to you about your program.
yes.
Are there any questions that board members
I just
might
wondering,
have?
based on the study that they're working on, is something that the Parks Department can work with, because I think we have arborists that also look at the tree situation we have throughout the city.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to speak to Matt Williamson, or Matt Anderson on Thursday.
oh, perfect.
Yes, great.
Thank you.
Do you know offhand, in addition to the crepe myrtle, what the other varieties of trees that are offered? For example, you said 800
Yeah, 800, I
And
don't
I
have the
know that
exact
that's very
numbers on hand,
popular, yeah.
but it was, yeah, it was like 50 persimmons, a lot of, and like most of the other orders were slash pines and live oak.
Did you think the other selections were reasonable to be considered for tree planting?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
And just something you can send to us.
Yeah, I'll have the report ready in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice afternoon.
Good evening. Joseph Morgan, 1915 Stardust Drive, Clearwater, Florida, 33755, 17-year resident of the city. I was a school bus driver for 11 years in this, mainly in Clearwater for the county of Pinellas County, until I was nearly killed in a traffic accident. This is right up the corner at Drew and Fort Harrison. I only bring this up because I want you to know how essential, used to be we were called blue-collar workers, now we're essential workers, are treated in this county. When the day of my accident, the school district wouldn't pay for my medical bills. It cost $9,000. I had to take it out of my car insurance, and my car insurance went up because of it. The city of Clearwater failed to even give the gentleman a ticket. When I went to sue him, of course, he filed bankruptcy. There was nothing I could do. Anyway, I just want you to know how certain people in this neighborhood, taxpayers, 4 times a year I sit down and I write my tax payment out for my house. I've never been late on my utility bills in 17 years. But essential workers in this town are struggling. It's a constant struggle. Years ago, Capitol Theater, city spent $10 million while gentlemen and ladies were standing outside drinking flutes of champagne and drinking shots of vodka. No one can even get inside the theater that makes a poverty wage. I think, Mr. Rector, you lived in St. Louis at one time?
No, I did not.
You did?
I did not.
Oh.
I thought you,
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. I talked to someone that lived in Chesterfield or something.
I was with
Very
an
good.
organization. in
Anyway,
Chesterfield, yeah.
Muni Theater, the last 9 rows of the Muni Theater in St. Louis, 1,500 seats are reserved for people free. And that's what the city should be doing more for the least of our sisters and brothers. A young man that works for me now, because I'm not able to do yard work, he's 25 years old, really great skateboarder. Learned to do all his tricks at Ross Norton. Had to pay $2 every time he went in there. I know they now have programs for poor people. $2. We're making children pay $2 to get into a skate park when the Philadelphia Phillies are getting millions of dollars for their ballpark. I want free access for all our children to our park system in the city of Clearwater, and I want it to start today. I want people to start talking about it, and I want to bring it up at the next city meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Yeah. Are there any other citizens to be heard tonight regarding items not in the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to item 4.1. volunteer program presentation. I asked Parks Director Halios to request that Samantha Moulet come to make a presentation on our volunteer program. So those of you know from prior meetings, I've been a participant in some of the programs, been impressed with the reach, and wanted her to come tonight to share with us what's been accomplished so far, how successful the program's been, and maybe we can talk about ideas to maybe engage the community further through this program.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm Samantha Moulet. I'm the volunteer specialist for Parks and Recreation, City of Clearwater. And like you said, I'm here to talk about some of our programs, what we have going on, what we've done in the past, and what we're looking to do moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So to begin, a little overview of the city volunteer programs in general. So we do have a volunteer program through Parks and Recreation, but if you aren't aware, we do also have a program through our police department and through our library system, which is really, really great to see. So through our Parks and Recreation program, we're a little bit unique in the fact that we have what I refer to as ongoing or long-term volunteers, more like our volunteer positions, and then we also have our ongoing long-term volunteers, and then our one-time or episodic volunteers. So ongoing volunteers, you apply, you go through an interview process, you have a background check. It's more of a position where you're maybe at a nature park or something like that. Our one-time volunteers, doesn't mean necessarily you come out one time, but you're there for like an event or a cleanup or something where it's pretty quick and accessible. You can show up, do a couple hours of service, and then go home to your family. So some of our ongoing volunteers within Parks and Recreation, who's been to Moccasin Lake Nature Park? Amazing, amazing to see. So we have a lot of different partner groups out there, Birds of Prey, Native Plant Society, the Herpetological Society. They have a lot of people who have been there for years and years and years, and these are people that are giving countless hours every single week back to our park out there at Moccasin Lake Nature Park. They take care of animals, they take care of the birds, they do invasive species pulling, they help with our programming out there. They do a lot of educational events for the public, mostly free, so that's really great to see as well. And then within our rec centers and some of our other facilities, we have volunteers that are ongoing, a lot of youth volunteers, which is great. So CITs, counselor in training, are volunteers. We have junior lifeguards out there in the rec centers, also volunteers. And then a lot of our coaches and some of our staff assistants out there in the rec centers are also some of those long-term ongoing volunteers. So then we get to the one-time, or what I call episodic volunteers, and these are the things that you've probably seen going on a lot recently. So these are our big park and beach cleanups. We've done some native plantings. We do a lot of landscaping projects, so planting and landscaping beds, flowers, mulching, raking, weeding, all sorts of things like that, just to help out. You know, we keep our parks really beautiful with our staff, but we can make them extra clean and beautiful with the help of volunteers and with the community. Lots of habitat restoration, so invasive species removal. Again, some of those plantings like the mangrove plantings out on the Courtney Campbell that we've done. And then some of our fun rec center events, so if you've ever been out to the Halloween events, the Jubilee, or the Easter extravaganza events, the holiday hayride, we have one coming up here in August, which is Lake Bellevue Day, so it's just a big community celebration, and we have lots of volunteers that come out to assist in those kind of events as well. Special events, something that we haven't really been doing recently, but is usual part of our Parks and Rec programming. So a lot of the big festivals you used to see at Coachman Park, the Sugar Sand Festival, the big Hispanic Heritage, Sea Blues, those types of big special events have a lot of volunteers that assist with them as well. And then our athletic events. So we have a lot of big softball tournaments out here, a big ESPN tournament that we have a lot of different user groups come out and help with, along with some of our individual volunteers as well. So a lot going on. Just an example of some projects, sorry it's so small, that we've been doing lately. We have teamed up with a rental company called Sandy Feet Kayaks, so we've been doing some waterway cleanups out in some of our lakes and rivers and shorelines that we have within our city. So we were out at Lake Bellevue. I think we collected 535 pounds of trash a couple months ago out of Lake Bellevue. It was the first time we've been out there in a long time to clean that lake up. Cooper's Bayou, and we have been out at Stevenson Creek up near that lawn bowling center, and we're going to be back out there actually this Saturday to do a on land and in the water cleanup. And they actually provide those kayaks free of charge to volunteers who don't have a kayak, so they can actually come, use the kayaks to clean up, and then go home. Painting projects, so we've been out sprucing up some parks. We were out at the Veterans Memorial out at Crest Lake Park a couple weeks ago for Memorial Day. Planting some plants, painting the signs, cleaning up some of the walls out there, and just making it beautiful for the community. Lots of park cleanups going on, so you've probably seen us out. We have Crest Lake Park cleanups every single Tuesday. We have all sorts of groups that come out, so we work with a lot of churches, Boy Scout troops, corporate groups. We just had Publix out last weekend, so a lot of these big groups are really wanting to give back and come out into the community and help with our parks and our park system. And then the environmental restoration projects that we've worked on. We've teamed up with the Florida Aquarium out at the Courtney Campbell Causeway to do some mangrove planting out there, and we'll continue to do that after the summer. We have some adopt programs. So adopt programs are going to be adopt a park, adopt a street, and adopt a trail. To adopt a space, it's a 2-year commitment, so this is more for those big groups. We have neighborhood organizations, corporate groups, CC's Pizza, we have the Island Estates, all sorts of different groups out here, and these are for groups that want to make more of an ongoing commitment to a space that's near and dear to their hearts. So it's a 2-year commitment. We make it very accessible, and you only have to clean up 2 times per year. And then this can be as easy as picking up litter once a week or once a month to really jumping in and doing mulching and planting and all sorts of projects out there. We have a Girl Scout crew coming out to Crest Lake Park in a couple of months, and we have the fire engines coming out so they can meet some female firefighters, and they have Kona Ice coming out, so they make it into a fun whole day, and then of course the splash pad afterwards to celebrate. This year, so this is starting January of this year, our accomplishment, we've actually had 73 volunteer events this year, so cleanups, painting projects, all sorts of things like that, our rec center events. Over 1,000 people have volunteered for our cleanups. And donated 5,600 hours of their time to our park system, which is amazing. And we've removed 6,298 pounds of litter so far, which is a lot of litter that our volunteers have taken out of our public spaces and put it into the trash. So that's amazing to see. Looking forward, we have a couple different things coming up. We are always continuing to develop our community partnerships, so working with different nonprofit partners, Keep Pinellas Beautiful, Sierra Club, all these different partners out in the community that are doing very similar things that we're doing and already have a presence out there in the community. So how can we work together, partner, maybe complement each other's efforts out there? Developing more formal training for volunteers, so really putting time and effort into developing volunteers, giving them some education that they can then go back and share into the community. We want to definitely always increase frequency and type of volunteer opportunities, so not just cleanups all the time, right? Everyone loves to clean up their parks and their beaches, but what else can we do to incorporate volunteers into our communities, into our rec centers, and into our parks? With this, we're looking into lots of different ways that volunteers can give back with programming. So out at Moccasin Lake, for example, more volunteer-led programs. We have volunteer-led yoga and volunteer-led Kai Chi Do at Moccasin Lake and Crest Lake Park. So more opportunities like that where we can go out, see what skills are out in the community, and bring those things back into our parks and centers. Always looking for more adoptions. So if there's any groups out there, corporate, churches, anyone like that who wants to adopt and care for a space ongoing, we're always looking for more. Organizing a big community cleanup day. So really making a presence and making things a little bit bigger, teaming up with our special events programs, having more of music and lunch and making it into more of a community celebration of let's all get together, raise awareness, give back to our community, and then also celebrating more national days of service. So big Make a Difference Day in October. There's National Family Volunteer Day. There's all these volunteer days out in the world, and that we are all celebrating nationally. So let's be part of that national presence and have Clearwater right up there with everyone else. So if you want to volunteer or give back, it's really, really easy. We've gone paperless. So everything that we do, our applications, our signups, our events, everything is on one big platform called GivePulse. It's online. You can access this through our My Clearwater page, myclearwater.com/volunteer, or you can go straight to the Give Pulse website and sign up that way. When you go onto this website, it's a really easy platform. You probably recognize it from a lot of other social platforms out there, but you can just scroll down. Let's go to our events. Oh, it's loading. Usually you can scroll down and that's because we have so many things going on right now. Usually you can scroll down and it'll show you every single thing we have going on, from our coaching and ongoing opportunities to our cleanups, the next big project, and it will all be listed here. And you can sign up. We ask that everyone does complete a one-time application. So you sign up, you complete that one time, and then you're into the platform and you can sign up for whatever opportunities you'd like to join in on. We are all ages for most of our opportunities. We love having families come out. We love having kids. We love starting that service early. So if there are people that want to come out for, summertime, we have a lot of opportunities for all ages out there and all skill levels. And how do I get back to where I was?
Second scroll down.
And that's all. Thank you so much, you guys, for having me here. Any questions?
from the board?
Do you have anything presently going on for Forest Run Park up in the countryside area? And if not, how can that community reach out to get something established for the Forest Run Park? And I'm primarily concerned about littering, if you will.
So no, we do not have anything currently out there, and I haven't had any inquiries into starting anything out there. So if there's an established neighborhood association out there in the area, we work a lot with Jordan Meringue, our neighborhoods coordinator, to work with a lot of the neighborhoods that adopt our parks. So I would recommend, if there's a neighborhood organization coming, they can email me, they can email Jordan, and we can start the conversation. If they wanted to do more of a formal adoption, we can definitely start that conversation as well. And usually that looks like I would go out there and meet with them, talk, walk around the park, see where the troubled areas, talk about different projects we can get involved in and what kind of commitment they want to make or how they want to get involved, and we would just go from there.
If they were not part of a neighborhood association, but in fact they use the park frequently, how would we be able to solicit from them possibly volunteering to do nothing more than a litter cleanup, if you will? Have you got any suggestions or ideas?
Yeah, so, it would be as easy as me just putting that on the calendar. So if there's a need, and most of our projects come from needs in the community, when I hear of a need, I try to go out and organize people or events in the area. So if there is a need at that park, then we could stick one on the calendar, and then I outreach in a lot of different ways. So we have different volunteer platforms. We have our big Give Pulse platform. So there's almost 2,000 volunteers on there at this time. So I, sent out a big email to everybody. I have a volunteer newsletter that goes out once a month that I outreach as well, and then reaching out to local churches and businesses and people in the area to get them involved.
Would they consider posting something right at the park itself so that those people that use the park can see, yes, some of the things that I think are not good relative to littering, here's an opportunity for me to volunteer with the people that use the park. Not part of a neighborhood association, but we use it. We'd like to help clean it up.
Yeah, and that's something I'm actually experimenting with out at Crest Lake Park. So we've started every single week we're out at Crest Lake Park, every single Tuesday morning, 9 to 11. And I got some yard signs and stuck them out there. So it says Crest Lake Park cleanup, 9 a.m. to 11, meet here. And so, that was my hope, is to get those people that are going to be out there. Maybe they're not on our newsletters, maybe they're not involved in, city emails, but to get those people boots on the ground that are actually out there using the park and hopefully get them involved in cleanups. So that's absolutely something we can do.
They should reach out directly to yourself to get involved in that?
Yeah.
You have a business card of yours that I might have by any chance?
I do, yes, I can.
Okay.
Get you one of those. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Great.
And then, you said that some of the events you have are based on needs of that community, and looking at the ADOPT program and also some volunteer opportunities, is there a way to see where some of that, let's say everybody wants to join one popular one, but is there a way to see which are the least popular, which need more people, which need more volunteers, or what parts, I guess, in the city need someone to pick up and adopt a section?
Yes, so to the first question, yes, on all of our opportunities online, it has a spots remaining. piece item. If you've seen that at like events that you've signed up for, it says 14 spots remaining. So they can absolutely go on there and see, which has the most spots remaining that we actually need a lot of help for. In terms of location-based, and which areas need to be adopted. I mean, we have a list of what has been adopted currently in all the organizations that have adopted those spaces, but if someone were to come to me, the thing is that changes a lot. So we'll have, weeks or years where there's a problem over here and this space needs to be adopted, and then other times where this space is having a lot of trouble. Right now, the beaches are a really big challenge for us in keeping those clean. So right now it might be more of, having, when someone comes to me and they say, hey, I want to help, and where do you need the help? Maybe right now I would send them more towards the beaches. So it kind of depends on need, but there's not a physical map that has the needs mapped out or anything like that.
Thank you.
At this time. Great. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Chair, this e-comment is 4.1,
Okay,
but it seems to be about 4.2.
okay.
So would you like me to read it now?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is an e-comment from Elizabeth Davis. Please consider having some process for small neighborhood parks to have a local neighborhood team and leader in charge of monitoring, perhaps signing off on the keys to the bathrooms with a deposit, liability, signatures on record. There are some parks with local leaders who would love to be more committed to the local park and its use. Test this with those who would like to own it. Maybe even one of you would be able to lead this in your own neighborhood. Thank you. I guess it is about this item.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll move to item 4.2, and then, this time, I'm not sure whose agenda item this was, but Mr. Raftery, would
right.
you like to present?
Yes, I added this item. I live up in the countryside area, and I go to the Countryside Rec Center a lot. And they have an excellent staff there, excellent attendance, excellent variety of activities. And if there are any concerns or issues amongst the people that use that facility, you have a staff right there to speak to, and I'm sure they do make known any issues they have. However, I don't think the same thing is true, for example, at Forest Run Park. And I've been to Forest Run Park as a visitor, if you will, on a couple of occasions just to check it out. And one of the things was mentioned to me by the people that I did encounter was lack of a restroom facility. Now, maybe there can be something done about that, maybe there cannot be. But the fact of the matter is, the only way they could communicate that was that I told them that I was on the advisory board and I was curious as to what they felt about the Forest Run Park. And they volunteered the information to me about the restroom. So what I was thinking is at Forest Run Park or other places, is there something that we could consider to allow the citizens to convey concerns or issues that they want to bring to the attention of Parks and Recreation Advisory Board or Director, that we could set up possibly a comment card, a box where comments could be put. Of course, you'd then have the problem of picking them up and so forth. I'd just like to throw that open for discussion, because I think outside of going down there on a regular basis and talking to different people at different times, we may not hear things that are of concern to them that we really need to be aware of, and maybe we can do something about it, and maybe we can. So I just thought I would throw that out there for discussion, and anybody that may have some ideas as to how we may provide that citizen input on the parks that they're using.
Mr. Helios?
Yes, we do have a mechanism. It's the Clearwater Connect mechanism that's done via online, where people can submit online suggestions, concerns, and comments. And then that gets routed. They can go in there and they can say, I have a Parks and Recreation comment, and then they can even further down to Parks and Beautification or whatever they want, to just make it a general comment. And we have an assigned liaison in the department that handles those issues, gets them to the right person. And then, so if it's something that they wanted to bring to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, they can certainly do that. And then our liaison that handles that would give that to me, and then in turn I would bring it to you as a body to address. But we do have a mechanism citywide on how we deal with that. And, because a lot of those things that we get, and this is where we kind of get into an area with the sunshine and everything, is having a comment box. Well, that becomes a public record once that's out there. So we need to have a mechanism to maintain that and track it and have that in there as well.
Do you think that that vehicle is well-known amongst people? Is it widely used?
It is widely used, but again, it may be widely used by the same people over and over again. So it may not be as, and that's one thing that I can talk with our public communications department about, is maybe have them push that information out a little bit more on how to make a comment. Because it's the same thing for the rec center. You can make a comment about a rec center using that app as well.
Right, and I think if you did have an issue with the rec center, or just a comment, when you speak to the staff, they're going to help you out. They're going to tell you exactly what you can do, no questions asked. But if you're at one of those parks, you're on your own, you might be talking to yourself about something that's bothering you if you don't know about this Clearwater Connect.
And that could be an education piece, because I will admit that we probably did a very good job of pushing that when it first came out. But
Right.
as more people move into the area and more people become active in using the parks, they probably don't know about it as well as they should
Right.
have. So that's something I can definitely discuss with our public communications.
Okay.
Vice Chair Rodriguez?
Do they, at the parks and the facilities, is it noted somewhere, like a sign where people that go to the park, they can see, okay, to any comments, instead of like a public card, is there
Oh, good point.
a
And-
public signage?
We can look at doing that, because we're actually looking at redoing our signage throughout our park system, just because it's kind of old, and so that's one thing that's a very duly noted. That's a good point. We can look at adding that on there.
Yeah, when you go to Forest Run, there's nothing that tells you anything. In fact, nobody asked me where they could come. In fact, the only thing that I saw that was a bit disconcerting was the amount of litter that's out there. And there's multiple trash cans in much of places. And they just throw stuff right there in the parking lot. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's not.
Human citizens.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not specific to Forest Run. I know Mr. Rector and I have discussed it multiple times. It's out on the beach and it's everywhere. We'll have incidents where there's a can half full of garbage, but on the ground, it's
Exactly.
everywhere, so.
I know a really good volunteer program that would fix that.
That's why I'm asking her about Forest Run.
Any other questions from the board? Any comments from citizens present on item 4.2? Hearing none, we'll move to item 4.3, discuss ability to access closed restrooms. Is that
I think that was an email
email?
from
email
Beth
comment
Davis
that
at
we've
the
got?
last meeting we went to, if I'm not mistaken. I asked for that to be added there because it was one of her comments, or one of the email things she sent to us at the last meeting, May 25th, and I wanted to put it on the agenda for discussion.
Yeah, do you want me to read her comment?
If you would read that again.
Okay. Elizabeth Davis, as you review this, please discuss a list of where we have neighborhood restrooms that are not open. Having a list to discuss the possibilities will help prioritize what's possible. Currently, with all of our park space, only the beach, the Long Center, I think, and Crest Lake Park have any city restrooms to use. I think we may have a portalet in Cape Park for the trail. We build trails, have neighborhood parks, but offer practically no restrooms. Adventure and play with children, aunts, uncles, grandparents should have restrooms. Leaving a party to go find a restroom is not recreation, it is burden. Perhaps Spectrum Field could have an exterior restroom to support the trail. We have facilities built. Evaluate the possibility. Most of all, please sign how to have access everywhere. It is currently a mystery. Thank you for addressing this.
Yeah, I'll be happy to address it. This is, we used to have a crew of 2 people that would go around and clean restrooms. Unfortunately, there's a thought that it's just as simple as opening the doors and letting people in. Well, we have to open the doors, we have to close the doors, we have to go in there and clean the restroom. So when that resource was, at the time, 2010, deemed, for lack of a better word, a luxury when we were, dealing with the Great Recession at that time. So there are currently locations out at Woodgate Park, Cherry Harris Park, Glen Oaks Park, and Belmont Park that have restrooms that are not open to the public in general. You have to, if you're reserving a shelter out there, you can get a deposit, get the key, and have the restrooms open when you're utilizing that space. And that's due in part because we know when someone's going to be there, we can open it up and we can clean it as a one-off. We just do not have the resources to go in there and and clean that, and I think this goes back to having a larger discussion, strategic discussion on whether that's something that the council and the citizens and yourself as a body, want to do and go forward to, because if that is a decision, then we need to be resourced accordingly to be able to do that.
I would think that the restroom planning is part of the comprehensive plan for the parks that's coming up for review fairly soon too. And
Yeah.
placement of those restrooms.
And that would be my, kind of my direction on that. Same thing with talking about adding it on to trails, because again, it's not so much the initial capital investment, that's never the piece. The piece is the operating investment. And then when you're talking about certain areas and trails, you also have to talk about utilities. Do we have water there? Do we not have water there? How do we get that? And then that gets into costing quite a bit of money. And again, you're looking at having to add more staff in there to maintain those. But as the chair said, that's something that probably, I think, is more appropriately addressed through the strategic planning process and through the visioning process of where do we see ourselves in 5 to 10 years. And, that is, the community can help drive that discussion. So, I think that's an appropriate place to have that discussion.
Outside of the emails that we've received, do you see this as a significant issue that's been commented upon by other people numerous times to the point where, yep, it's something we keep hearing about? I'm just curious.
It kind of ebbs and flows. Traditionally, and I'm going to use Forest Run as an example because that's a park near where I live. And that's considered, we classify that as a neighborhood park. And neighborhood parks are anything within a mile of your house that you walk to. So traditionally, neighborhood parks do not have restrooms. That's just the way that we allocate our resources. We don't put them in neighborhood parks. And it kind of, when people will come out and have those requests, actually had a resident ask me about that. And when I explained kind of the reasoning behind that, then I think that there's a little more understanding as far as, because if that's the case, then where do we put them and not put them? And then that causes an equity issue of, well, you put a bathroom in this park in this neighborhood, but you're not putting one in the park in my neighborhood. So that's how we delineate where they go.
Also, there's concern of security sometimes too. Coming from New York, you can't put certain bathrooms open because you don't know who would be in there, heaven for people with addictions or someone with dangerous intentions. So you have that resource to worry about.
Yeah, and I will give you the perfect example of why we've opened it at Crest Lake now is because we have staff that are there the whole time. They open and they close it, and and even with the staff in there, we still have vandalism and damage.
Any other questions from the board? Any comments from citizens on agenda item 4.3?
Oh, wait, report.
I believe item 4.4 we've already covered, so if there's no objection, we'll move on to,
4.4, I have a comment.
oh, do we? Okay. Yeah.
Same. Trails and walking a distance deserve restrooms every 2 to 3 miles. Usability by residents is a function of convenience. Our trails would be used more if this restroom amenity is added. Playgrounds should also have a bathroom access. We have 16.45 natural pedestrian trails with a random portalet. Please include in the next capital plan. The restrooms may already be nearby, just not opened or signed on the trail maps and paths. That is the Long Center, Moccasin Lake, Eddie C. Moore, Countryside Community Park, Wood Valley. We could even sign on the Del Oro Bay Shore Trail that the Safety Harbor Marina has bathrooms that are always open, 1.5 miles north.
Any questions or comments from the board on that item? I think we answered a lot of those questions with the previous discussion, so if there's no objection, we'll move to item 4.5, discuss Lake Pond at Glen Oaks Park. I asked that this agenda item be put on the agenda, having noticed the drainage of the water there at the park, and having asked Mr. Helios about the reason for that, and at the time, I think it was the last meeting or so, indicated that they didn't know for sure. They were trying to figure it out, but those of you who drive through that area may have noticed that too, and I thought it might be helpful for the board in case we are asked by the community just exactly what's going on there with the water and the drainage.
Sure, from, conversations with our engineering department and the stormwater division and our environmental compliance specialist, it appears to be that there is a abandoned well point that is located somewhere within that structure. And so the water returned back to the earth, for lack of a better word. And we've had that happen, not to this extent, and I think it was exacerbated by the drought that we, for lack of a better word, the lack of rain that we had for the month of May. So we've had the seasonal, this has happened before, not to this extent. So, they're looking at it and trying to come up with a way, whether if we can get in there, and I don't know if it would have to be after the rainy season, to cap off that abandoned well point to be able to, prevent that from going anywhere in the future. But I will reach out to my liaison over in engineering and kind of get an update on where we're at with this.
Okay.
Excuse me, I don't quite understand what you're saying. So there's a well point in the lake that's draining the lake?
That's what they believe it is, yeah. So it was an old, and that area is a stormwater retention runoff area. So they're actually, the park was built, it's an old golf course that we took over there. And so the golf course, we took the land back with where that golf course was, and the idea was that this was built to address a 100-year floodplain. So the idea was that when we took that back over, some of that area would be mitigated back into wetland, and then we would build on the lower end where you see the football field and the soccer fields there. That's actually a runoff area. So if we do get the 100-year flood, it will go from the lake into the soccer field and not flood the neighborhood. So I think that's where their concern is, from that well point of somewhere on that old golf course. Actually used to be the old Chichi Rodriguez golf course. That's what happened, is somewhere in there, and it wasn't handled properly in the beginning.
Any other comments from the board or questions? Any comments or questions from the citizens? Hearing none, we move to item 4.6, establish a dog park in the Greenwood area.
Yes, this was an item that I had asked to be added to the agenda. I'm attending the city council meetings on a regular basis, both to be educated and informed as to what's going on in the city. But I also like to listen to the citizens that come to those meetings that will take the 3 minutes to either make a comment or criticism and or suggestion to the city council. And at the meeting on the 17th of June, a gentleman did step up. His name is Mohammed. I know him from the NAACP in the Greenwood area. And he asked as to why a dog park could not be established in the Greenwood area. He evidently had brought this up previously, and he asserted that it was either dismissed outright or he really never felt he heard a reply from anybody. He even suggested, I believe, that some unused tennis courts in the Greenwood area could be used for the dog park, and he felt that the citizens in that area would in fact use the dog park. So I made a note of it to myself and added it to the agenda for no other reason than thinking that although his comments were made at the city council, this is an area that does fall within perhaps Park and Recreation's purview, and I thought, let's put it on the agenda and find out if this is something that has been considered and dismissed for whatever reason, or could be considered going forward, or perhaps part of the master plan. So I really wanted to give this citizen an opportunity to be heard at the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting.
And I think that's a good forum for it, would be the master planning session, because traditionally now we have two dog parks, one on the east side of town, which is over at Enterprise Dog Park, and then we have one on the west side of town at the Crest Lake. So, we kind of, that was our dog park business, were those two dog parks. Now, that was when the master plan was done back in 2012. Demand may have changed, and if demand has changed and it's necessitated through, our interactions with citizens with the strategic planning process that we need to add some more, I think that's the proper way to identify it.
And how would we go about doing that to see that it is looked at, to see whether it is feasible to do it, and if not, to explain to this gentleman and the citizens of that area why that's not going to happen?
Well, I think that, that's going to be one of the things when we talk about with the consultant that we bring in to do the strategic planning process. They're going to look at it, and they have standards from the National Recreation and Park Association where they'll have, per 1,000 people, per square mile, where you would have a dog park.
Right.
And, we can determine whether by those national standards we're comfortable with that, or if the citizens say, no, we'd like to have 4 dog parks,
Right.
then that's how we address it.
Right? And oftentimes, there's a very good reason for not doing it, and I just think it's important that if a citizen takes the time to come to a meeting and takes their 3 minutes to make a comment that falls under our purview, that hopefully we can take it up ourselves to decide what's the best way to approach getting feedback or information back to the citizen relative to that. So they just don't think, I had my 3 minutes and nothing really happened, I never heard a thing about it, so he will bring it up again perhaps in 6 months. So,
Fair point.
okay.
Very good. Any other comments or questions from the board? Please.
I have an e-comment from Elizabeth Davis. I strongly support adding dog parks to our amenities. Currently, Enterprise Dog Park is always packed on the weekends with very little parking. Crest Lake is also well used. San Key County Dog Park is our third, but not servicing many residents from Clearwater. Surely investment from the city on fencing and equipment can make this a controllable execution within our existing budget. This is a perfect place to respond to citizens' requests and improve lifestyle for our neighborhoods. Please vote to request a city council to approve this now. Thank you.
Any other citizen comment on item 4.6? Yes, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, I have a question.
You need to
If
come
you
to
could
the
approach the
microphone.
podium so we can get you on the microphone.
And would you please repeat your name for the record?
Yes. Joseph Morgan, Clearwater, Florida. I have a question about dog parks. When people, I was raised around dogs all my life, being from Missouri. Foxhounds for hunting, and I raised shepherds the last 15 years that I lived in Missouri. So I've been around dogs. When people bring dogs into dog parks, are they responsible for that dog if they bite somebody else or bite another human being?
Yes.
Okay. Does the city in any way draw any responsibility for anybody getting hurt inside that dog park?
It would depend on what happened, but usually I'm sure there's some type of liability. I'm not in charge of risk management, so they would be the ones to answer that question.
Okay. My concern, having worked in Greenwood, and thank you, Mr. Rafferty, for bringing this up for this gentleman. It's very thoughtful. My concern is pit bulls. Greenwood is filled with nothing but pit bulls, and a lot of my kids that were on my buses are very fearful of them and have been chased by them many times. My concern is in that area there might be 10, 12 pit bulls in a dog park, and that's a license for someone to get hurt. That would be my only concern. But, I hope this board will bring this up with the risk management and a concern for that. But other than that, I mean, the citizens, no matter where they live in Clearwater, deserve the same dog parks throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Any other citizens to be heard on this agenda item? Hearing none, we'll move to item 5, all business items. Is there any old business to come before the board? Seeing none, we'll move to item 6, director's report.
Nothing to report other than what we've discussed. We will have our 4th of July celebration out at Clearwater Celebrates America out at Baycare Ballpark. Sorry, I was trying to remember what the new name is. I'm used to calling it the old name, so I had to pause there. So Baycare Ballpark, gates open, I believe, I want to say 6 o'clock, and the festivities will start around 7:15 with a pre-fireworks concert with fireworks scheduled to go off around 9:15. So that's what we have coming up, and stay tuned, and we're looking forward to everybody showing up.
And that is a ticketed event, so citizens need to get a ticket ahead of time, or is it?
That's correct, yes. Since we weren't able to utilize Coachman Park, and, we have a very kind of limited capacity to host this event in a different area, it is a ticketed event, so they will need to go online and get their ticket ahead of time. And there's a small charge with that, and that allows us to have the event staffed appropriately, and so there's still plenty of tickets available.
Any questions for the director from the board?
I actually have a question.
Sure.
We used to get these project reports for all the different things going on. Is that going to be not happening anymore, or we don't get these?
No, we can return to put those back in the packets if that's something that the board would like. I don't have an issue doing that. We've just kind of been, I think COVID put a pause on a lot of different things, and that was one of them, so we can look to start adding that back in.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the director? Hearing none, move to item 7. Board members to be heard. Mr. Raftery,
I have nothing.
Vice Chair Rodriguez.
Nothing other than July 4th is going to be great at Baycare Park. The tickets are also very accessible. They're not like major league tickets. Sometimes they're actually $6. The most expensive ticket in Baycare is $9, right behind home plate if you choose so. So they're very reasonable. So I expect a lot of people to be there. So.
Board Member Tuttle.
I have nothing.
Board Member Hood. Board Member Armstrong.
No.
Okay, well, thank you for attending tonight. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Moved. Seconded. Thank you for attending Citizens tonight. Appreciate all those of you who shared your comments and encourage you to attend again. So.